Thank you, Alexa. I always forget that. So this is our agenda for tonight. As I mentioned, Heidi Mitter is here. I'll talk a little bit more about her in a minute. Got a couple of upcoming events. On Friday is the deadline for completing the Virginia Statewide Trails Plan Survey. As you may know, there is currently a Office of Trails in VDOT. I believe they're currently looking for staff too, and maybe Heidi can tell us something about that. But they have put out a survey asking for your thoughts about trails in Virginia. So I think it would be good, if you can, to check that out. And if you wanted to know the link to that, you can go to our blog. And Steve Ward has put up a blog about that. The Virginia Trails Need Your Voice. The next item is this Saturday, Tour de Mount Vernon. There's, I think, Jeff Anderson said we've got about 500 people signed up. Looks like the weather is a little iffy, but the forecast is better than it was earlier in the week, so I think we're going to be okay. And FABB gets a small donation from that. And thanks to WABA for helping us support that as well through the Capital Trails Coalition. And then the last item is October 26th, next Thursday is the deadline to comment on the Mount Vernon trail improvements. And there's an action alert that Kevin and WABA put together. Thank you very much for that. You can go to either our blog and find the link to that, or go to WABA's action page. And then it would be great if you could fill out the survey. That southern part of the trail is in bad condition. And fortunately, the Tour de Mount Vernon is not using it this year. We're going to be on the George Washington Memorial Parkway for the first time in many, many years. So it's a great chance to ride that route. But yeah, the trail desperately needs maintenance. So that'd be a good chance to weigh in on that. So we're fortunate, as I mentioned, to have Heidi Mitter, VDOT's new multimodal planning manager. She took the place of Fatima Aladouste, who's retiring in January. Fatima was the longtime ped bike coordinator that we worked with for many, many years. And it was then, I'm trying to think of her replacement's name.
Before me, it was Cindy Engelhardt for
Cindy Engelhardt, that's right. And then Heidi has done a great job as the current ped bike coordinator, as well as the multimodal planning manager. And hopefully there'll be additional staff added to that office. But thank you, Heidi, for all the great work you've done as a coordinator over the years. And Heidi's going to give us an update on the 66 parallel trail that I'm sure some of us have been out there exploring. I'll stop sharing my screen, and Heidi, you're welcome to start sharing yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Bruce. Let me pull up the correct presentation here. All right. So is that showing correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Heidi, before you start, I was going to repeat that if you have questions for Heidi, you can put them in the chat. And at the end of her presentation, we will go through the chat questions and audible questions. And if you have an audible question at the end, raise your hand and we'll go through those one by one, as much as we can within the hour. We're going to try to get this done in an hour or less. So with that, Heidi, it's all yours.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I can't see the chat pod or the videos or anything. So just let me know if there's anything I need to pause and give attention to. But thank you, Bruce, for that introduction. I do want to pay homage to Fatima Aladouste. She has worked for VDOT for about 33 years. Her husband has also worked for VDOT for about 34 years, and she's had a tireless commitment to multimodal transportation and TDM programs, and really trying to advance that in the NOVA district as well as statewide. So there are some big shoes to fill, and I will remain the bicycle and pedestrian coordinator for the district for the foreseeable future. the layout of staffing is still being worked on, but I will still be your point of contact. All right, so the agenda for my slides today is to speak mostly on the 66 parallel trail, but also touch on the Northern Virginia Bike Ped Network study that I'm conducting or project manager of, and then a couple other updates. So pardon the kind of funny formatting on some of these slides. I pulled them from a previous presentation. So some of you have probably already seen a few of these slides, and many of you are probably already quite familiar with the 66 parallel trail, but just in case you are not, some of the background is that the Transform 66 project built 11 miles of shared use path along I-66 and 18 miles of new trail facilities total across the project corridor, including crossings over I-66 and some spur trails as well. So we can see here there are interchanges and overpasses along the corridor with bike ped facilities. Fair Lake Circle has a new shared use path, so there's shared use path on both sides of Fair Lake Circle, and then a big connection to EC Lawrence Park. And I'll touch on some of the projects by others and other segments later in these slides. So picture of the new connection over 66 on Germantown Road. Now this is our big map. I'll walk through it a little bit to walk through the alignment. And I will say I'll be focusing on the bright blue segments. And I'll add that this is somewhat a conceptual map. There have been some slight changes to the as-built shared use path from some of these lines, not, big changes, but if you see, a little piece that's in front of your house, but you said, oh, there's nothing new in front of my house, there were some, minor changes in the field. So if you can see my cursor, it is on the top half of the image, and we're starting on the western part of the trail. This is the Route 28 I-66 interchange. The shared use path goes from Braddock Road up to EC Lawrence Park, so crossing over Route 28. And then also goes down Route 28 to connect down towards Lee Highway into existing facilities. The gray dashed lines are either existing facilities or segments that are going to be built or improved through other projects. So continuing east on the main line trail, it heads to Audrey Drive and Veronica Road and to the Stringfellow Park and Ride. So there are some direct connections to these neighborhoods and to the Stringfellow Park and Ride. And then there's a reconstructed Bob Ann Trail on the south side of I-66, which connects into Wharton Lane. And then we continue on eastward around the back of the Fair Lakes Shopping Center. There's a direct connection into the parking lots there behind the Walmart. And then it connects into Fair Lake Circle. So on Fair Lake Circle, there was a road diet where we transformed an eastbound lane of the roadway to become shared use path. So you'll notice that roadway looks a fair bit different. And then it connects into existing shared use path on Fair Lakes Parkway. And this is a segment where Fairfax County Parkway Trail and the 66 parallel trail overlap with each other. And then the alignment goes down West Ox Road to Post Forest Drive and Random Hills Road. So Post Forest Drive and Random Hills Road are some segments that are in design right now that for improvements for a shared use path that I will touch on the details of later. Random Hills Road, much of it has an existing shared use path. And then I am going to come down to the bottom half of the image over here. Is this visible to everyone, Bruce?
Yes, yeah, we can see it.
So the alignment goes along Random Hills Road and comes to Random Hills Park. and will go through Random Hills Park once the county finishes construction on that segment through the parkland. And then it picks back up. The project built shared use path through the Route 50 interchange. So we get to the top of the Route 50 interchange with I-66, and it connects into Fairfax Farms Road. And so you can go into the Fairfax Farm Road and Pender neighborhood, I believe it is, or continue east to Waples Mill Road. There is a connection onto Waples Mill through a neighborhood path. Continuing east, there's a connection with Phoenix Drive, and then you hit Germantown Road and can also go up to Germantown. Then we get to the Route 123 interchange. There is new shared use path that connects a bit northbound on 123 as well as southbound on 123. The city of Fairfax is working on improvements to the George Snyder Trail. And then continuing on, these portions are, portions that have been open for several months now, east of 123, connecting to Bushman and Platten. And then we get to Blake Lane. The shared use path comes up to the Blake Lane Bridge. And right now, this next portion of dotted gray lines has interim improvements on it. So it has some bike lanes on Sutton Road and a cycle track in-road separated cycle track on the Virginia Center Boulevard Country Creek Road corridor. And that will have more permanent, more robust facilities. They're in design right now. Then we get to the Nutley Street interchange. It goes a little bit northward and southward. Continuing east, there's a connection with Jonas Drive, Jonas Park, Cedar Lane, and then ultimately to Gallows Road. And you can cross over Gallows Road. There are new facilities there on both sides of Gallows Road. And you can connect to the WNOD trail about 0.8 miles up Gallows Road. You can connect to the WNOD trail and continue out to Purcellville westward, or go to DC if you want from there. So I'll pause here and see if there are any specific questions on this map outside of the projects by others that I'll touch on later.
Well, Sonia has a question. Is there a connection at Jonas Park? Well, I can answer that. There is not. I thought there was a fence at the ballpark. Yeah. I don't know if you want to go into that. We've kind of looked into that a bit too as well. What do you think about that, Heidi?
So I haven't seen it recently in person, but my understanding is that there was a gate, but since it is private property, it was to be locked by that property owner. So that's all I know. I think there is kind of potential access, but it would require cooperation with the Jonas Park owners.
Yeah, that's our understanding too. We've worked with the town and others, and it's our understanding that gate will be locked most of the time. Maybe when there's events there in the summertime, but it's really unfortunate. There is a public park, I think, adjacent to the private park, but it is what it is, and those owners can restrict it. If anyone else has any other information, let us know. Alexis, any other questions there in the chat?
Yep. Jeff asks, for Virginia Center Boulevard, how is the bike lane separated? Is it flexi post curb?
So on Virginia Center Boulevard, the current status, which is the interim improvement, is separated by flex posts. But that will be there for a few years. The ultimate project, which is in design right now, will become a sidewalk level asphalt cycle track behind the curb. So beside the sidewalk. So there will be a road diet on that road as well. And it will be similar configuration to what's out there now. It'll be a two-way cycle track on the south side of the Country Creek, Virginia Center Boulevard roadway there.
Okay. Mark asks, is asking about Blake Lane intersection improvements. When will they be implemented?
So as part of the Vienna Metro Bicycle and Pedestrian Improvements Project, the ultimate configuration will be improving the intersection there at Blake Lane over I-66. The construction on that is starting 2025. So I guess after construction, I believe construction is set to be done in 2027 as part of that project. Now that is not part of potentially other efforts that are ongoing, but that construction project is starting 25.
Heidi, I think it would be good if you're going to talk about the off corridor segments as well, aren't you? Why don't we go
Yes.
through those and maybe get back to some of the questions, let me see if there's any real quick ones. Opening dates, any more details beyond October? You'll probably get to that. What is the legal jurisdiction for the trail? Well, it's a VDOT trail for the parts that are being built by the contractor. And then there are several other off-corridor parts that she's going to talk about now.
So my next slide is, I can go through the next couple slides quickly and we will reach the off-corridor segments soon. So these, I think you all have seen somewhat before, and I just mentioned them, the official access points, maintenance, that is a big topic. So the trail is still under maintenance jurisdiction of our contractors, FABB, until VDOT accepts it into our system. So I don't know exactly when that will be, but it will be soon, but I don't have a date on maintenance acceptance. And as far as the question on jurisdiction, VDOT will be maintaining, owning and maintaining the trail unless there are portions that are outside our right of way. The only main portion that I can think of or know of is the Random Hills Park segment, which is not that big of a segment, but that is a distinction there. And that Random Hills Park segment is a county park. So we will maintain the trail within our right-of-way, the pedestrian counters, the lighting, the barriers and fences. There will not be snow removal. And if there is an issue that you'd like to report, we suggest using the My VDOT portal. Once VDOT accepts it, we'll be able to address those maintenance issues. And try to include details like the nearest cross street or any other kind of geographic markers.
It'd be nice if My VDOT accepted it. I guess you could always put the coordinates in your field when you're discussing the issue, because along there, you may not know where there's any intersecting streets. But
Yeah. If you have coordinates, if you're using Google Maps or something, or if you are out there and you use Google Maps or Apple Maps or something, and you take a screenshot of, where your little blue bubble is, where you're standing, that can help you kind of, once you're back home or something, it can help orient you of exactly where that was. I don't know exactly the capabilities of My VDOT, how much information exactly it lets you put in, but just try to be as descriptive as you can, understanding that, you don't always know exactly where you are. The trail counters, we have 8 permanent counters that have all been installed now. They are...
Bruce, I got a question, and Heidi.
Yes.
Can you just go back a slide?
Yes.
So this is Jeff Anderson. And I may have missed it, but trail within VDOT right away. So we'll maintain. So two-part question. How do we, what part is not within the VDOT right away? Like, what are we talking about? And,
Mostly just the Random Hills Park.
okay. And then what does maintain include? Clearly, it doesn't include winter maintenance, but what does it include?
So I'm glad you asked. So the first priority are safety hazards. So if there is a major blockage or safety hazard, like a tree down, or like recently we had a tree fall behind a sound wall, and the sound wall was, breaking. So safety hazards, it could be a big obstruction on the trail. So first and foremost that, and then the discussions on debris removal and weed whacking of plants and things like that, we do that. It is not on a regular schedule, but we also do weed whacking and other debris removal as needed.
Yeah, I haven't been on it, but I've been driving, well, I've been on parts of it, but there's a lot of weeds that have been growing up. Now, granted, I assume those will all be cleared when it's converted over, because right now the summer is just, there's some weeds that are just finding their way in and they need to be removed so they don't return.
Yeah, I don't think we, to my knowledge, we don't necessarily dig up weeds that I have seen. I think it's more like weed whacking and things like that. But I will say it is a big trail and there are a lot of maintenance needs. So it will be able to be addressed sort of on an ad hoc basis. I do want to kind of manage expectations on that, but I think we can raise that to FAM to make sure that they look at the trail being passable and clear of all obstructions and things that are protruding into the trail as they get ready to open it up.
So like streets and in the
Hey,
WNOD.
Jeff, why don't we let her try to get through this and then get back to some of those questions?
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so the trail counters, these are the locations of them from west to east. They're dotted periodically across the corridor. So you will see them if you're out there. They're kind of a dark green pole. So they are installed and they are transmitting data, but we have not linked them into our statewide dashboard yet. We will soon, but I know Howard had asked me about, volume trends. I have not been able to look at any of the data at this point, but maybe in a future meeting, I can report on that, what we're finding. But also they will be publicly visible through a link that I can provide to view each counter. So on opening, as you all know, we opened some portions officially in May. We are working towards opening up everything else that Transform 66 has built very soon. There are some remaining, punch list items that still do need to be taken care of, but I can say we're working on opening up the trail very soon. The by other segments, so the Random Hills Park segment that is circled in red on the south side of the Route 50 interchange. This is under construction by the Fairfax County Park Authority. I have heard that it will be open spring or summer of next year. So this does create the need to kind of have a detour in the interim for the 66 parallel trail. And one detour option that I will offer is going eastbound. If you continue on Random Hills Road to Waples Mill and you go north on Waples Mill, right after you cross over I-66 on the west side of Waples Mill, there is a neighborhood connector trail. If you take that, it will connect into Mainline 66. the mainline 66 trail, and you can continue eastward on the mainline trail. Once you get on that, you can also continue into Fairfax Farms Road. But if you do go through the culvert towards the Route 50 interchange, you will have to turn around if that is even open. So that is probably the most promising detour. You can go through the Penderbrook neighborhood if you know it well enough to West Ox, but Waples Mill is probably the shorter option. Then the Vienna Metro Bike Ped Project's interim facilities consist of bicycle facilities on Sutton Road and Country Creek, Virginia Center Boulevard, plus bus platform signage and striping. Many of you have probably seen that. I will say they are still awaiting some signal modifications. We've also added some more no parking signage by Oakton High School recently. So there are still some, tweaks ongoing with that. And then the ultimate project, which is in design, will have shared use path on Blake Lane connecting into the 66 parallel trail that is constructed currently, and some intersection improvements at Blake and Sutton, and shared use path along Sutton up to the new sidewalk level cycle track, two-way cycle track covering Country Creek Road and Virginia Center Boulevard to connect with the existing shared use path from the 66 project. So again, construction will be starting in 2025. And with that, there are also other crosswalk improvements and a variety of other things. And this is a map of the corridor. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. Moving on to the Post Forest Drive and Random Hills Road project. This is going to be building a 10-foot shared use path along Post Forest Drive and Random Hills Road, connecting into existing shared use path around the new park and ride garage. And that will be in construction in 2027. And then further west on the corridor, this is Compton Road, which is right near the Bull Run Special Events Center. On the west end of Fairfax County, the Transform 66 project built a blue segment of shared use path under I-66. And then this project, being delivered by VDOT in coordination with Fairfax County, is extending that shared use path seen in the red dashed lines between the Bull Run Special Event Center Road to the existing Cub Run Trail. And that will also be in construction 2027. And then we get into the network study next. But I suspect we might want to pause for questions on the 66 parallel trail.
Yes, I think we should. And there's a number of questions in the chat. And if anyone wants to ask a verbal question, go ahead and raise your hand. And Jeff, if we can keep it brief, why don't you follow up with what you were going to ask, and then we'll get into some of the other questions if you want.
Sure, it was pretty quick, but I kind of forgot. The maintenance on the trail. I know Mark Warno pointed out there's debris on the trail too, but oh, I know what it was. Much like streets and the WNOD, has there been any thought to give into different organizations adopting its maintenance?
Yes, so I guess I've thought about it. I have not had the capacity to act on it very much, but I know such programs do exist. I think at this stage, I can just request, informally, that anybody that sees something that you're able to, throw a stick out of the way if it's, sitting in the middle of the trail, anything that you're able to do to help out, that's appreciated. I'm not sure I have the capacity in the immediate term to establish a volunteer trail, cooperation type agreement, but I will put that out there. If you have ideas on, helping out, please let me know. I know VDOT does do adopt a highway programs. And so we have floated the idea of maybe doing adopt a trail events where we can, do some cleanup days and things like that.
Well, whoever runs that for the roadway should just embrace this and own it for the trail. It's, I don't want to put it on you, put it on the people that already know how to do it.
Yes, yes. And that has come up. It's just, it would need a champion, and that champion would probably be me. So it just hasn't quite happened yet, but it's on the back of my mind, and I will probably bring it up again internally. But yeah, if you see anything out there that you're able to throw off to the side, please do. I will also say on the trail counters, there is a lens. There's a hole that points towards the trail. And if you're driving by or, walking by and you feel like stopping, just check that hole is clear of debris. Sometimes a leaf might get in there, or, a spider web or something. If you notice something in the hole of the counter, feel free to clear it out.
Let me just add a couple of things. A group of us a couple of years ago, met with VDOT maintenance staff down in Richmond, and we proposed the idea of doing volunteer cleanups on the Braddock Road Trail, I think was one of them. And they were open to the idea, but as Heidi said, it's going to take a local champion. And so we need to find one. And then on the general topic of maintenance, several of us from FABB, 3 of us from FABB, met with the key maintenance folks at the NOVA VDOT office, and Heidi was there as well. And we made a pitch for better maintenance, because we all know that the maintenance is really terrible on our trails. And I think the VDOT folks admit it. It's not a priority. But I think the message got through, and I'm hoping that it sticks. The other related aspect is that we contacted the Commonwealth Transportation Board representative for our area, Ms. Hines, and gave her the same pitch. And in fact, during the last CTB meeting, the Commonwealth Transportation Board, she mentioned they have major objectives for maintenance, and trails and sidewalks were not included. And she pointed that out to the folks. There was a lot of grumbling, but I think the message is getting across, and it's something we just got to continue to work on. Let's go ahead, and Alexis, I don't see any hands raised. Do you have, I know you got a bunch of questions there in the chat. Go ahead.
There are a bunch of questions in the chat. Some of them are back towards around connecting to the trail. Kelly is asking, will there be any improvement to the connection between the end at Gallows and the WNOD on Gallows?
The path along Gallows, not to my knowledge. I don't know of any improvements to the path along Gallows at this point, but the county may have something to say on that. So we could ask the county as well.
Okay, thank you. Charlie asked about the contractor has added bike lanes on Vaden Drive, but I think cars are parked in what will be the northbound bike lane to avoid paying for metro parking. Actually, I'm sorry, I don't think that's a question.
And we have gotten that comment recently before, and I believe there have been no parking signs recently installed there.
There was a similar problem on Sutton that Chris had reported to us, and he was able to, I think, work with Heidi probably and others to get another no parking sign. The no parking signs were from before the bike lane was in, but police can ticket on VDOT streets if there are people parking in the bike lane. And I reported it here in Reston. Unfortunately, it was a private street, but you can report to local police.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, you can. Unfortunately, I experienced the same here in the Mount Vernon and Franconia districts on a street, but unfortunately the police have very limited capacity to respond to that. They often don't, unfortunately. Kevin has suggested that mile markers on the trail would help with maintenance requests and emergency response.
There are set to be mile markers on the trail. But I will say our maintenance folks probably won't be aware of trail mileage. So it's just FYI. You can probably go ahead and include a trail mile marker if you're near one. They'll be every half mile, but not all of our maintenance staff have that information.
Okay, Mark has asked, are there metrics associated with the traffic counters?
At this point, no. These are our first permanent trail counters for VDOT in Northern Virginia. So this is kind of part of our larger data collection efforts. We do other bicycle pedestrian counts. And we use those to inform projects and studies. And if anyone's interested in having that data, it's for that and to show the change over time. So at this point, it will largely be for planning purposes and to show the hopefully increase in volumes over time.
There was a question about a connection from EC Lawrence Park to Route 50. Sounds like that would be way off the corridor, but any comments about? Oh yeah, that's not related to the project, and we'd have to take a look at that. So we're going to move on from that one. And Yvette had a question. Will the counter data also be available via an application programming interface, an API, so that the counts can be accessed programmatically?
I'm not sure. I think I would have to Google, are eco counter counts, available via API? Maybe you can Google that too. That's something I would have to look up.
And another question about wayfinding signage, and we have talked about that before. So can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes, there is and will be wayfinding signage on the segments that are part of the Transform 66 project. So some signs are up there now, and I think there are still more to be installed. And the segments that are being built by others, that wayfinding will be the responsibility for the county to install.
Kevin, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
For some reason, my camera has decided to stop working. I just wanted to note something about the trail count, or sorry, the mile markers, and the idea of them potentially not being as useful to maintenance staff or even emergency responders. And I just want to throw out there, I mean, one thing that WABA has done in the district is to host periodic trainings with emergency responders or the Office of Unified Communications, the 911 responders, basically to like walk them through like what trails are out there and what somebody on the trail might be seeing and how mile markers and again information that's out there and is probably accessible to these staffers, but they just might not be, if they don't use these facilities, they might not be aware. And so that might be something that like potentially FABB could do for VDOT maintenance folks or for emergency responders, right? To sort of walk through what are the major trails, what does it look like when you're out there, what might somebody who's on a bike or on foot be seeing, and to help with identification of where somebody is at. But that definitely seems like one way we could potentially make those mile markers that you're have wonderfully added, make them just a little bit more useful.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and that does sound like something that we could help with. We have found that the police don't use trail locations when they report crashes, and it's something we've tried to work with them on, but they do use coordinates. So something good to keep in mind. There was an interesting comment from Mark Warno. If VDOT purchases a trail blower similar to the WNOD, I am interested.
Is that like a leaf blower or?
I think it's a really powerful leaf blower.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, right. WNOD has they have it behind like a four-wheeler. I mean, it's not a leaf blower. I mean, it's a gas powered vehicle and they run down the WNOD. I don't know how often, but it's invaluable because it keeps the trail clear. They have to do it at least twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
If VDOT did something like that, even twice a year, I mean, after the winter, after I'm sure the trail is going to be covered with salt and debris and sand, with any kind of snow clearing on 66, that's going to blow into the 66 trail, and then maybe midsummer. That'd be fantastic.
There was a question about are there trash cans, public restrooms, and designated parking areas? And I'm pretty sure the answer is no, but go ahead and take that, Heidi.
Not that VDOT has built, just ones that might be accessible through other means, like at Fair Lake Circle, where it might meet the shopping centers there. EC Lawrence Park may have some, so not that VDOT has built.
And that's something that either VDOT or the county could put into a map and just publicize where there are some options.
Mm-hmm.
Alexis, any others?
One from Stephen about sound and decibel levels. He writes, a writer recently measured sound on an open part of the trail between 5 and 5:30 p.m. and got measurements in the 90 to 104 decibel range. In other words, unhealthy and damaging to hearing after 30 minutes. Are you aware of this, and are there plans to mitigate noise or at least place signs to warn users?
There are no plans to place signs to warn users. I don't know of any mitigations, but I will say the majority of the trail is behind sound walls. So, the parts that opened up in May between 123 and Cedar are quite are segments that are very much along 66. But most of the trail is not of that condition.
Well, I think we should go on.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I do want to highlight the Northern Virginia Bicycle Pedestrian Network study that you mentioned wanting an update on. So this is a study that's about a 1-year-long time frame. We kicked it off in March or April timeframe of this year, and it's going to be wrapping up in the spring of this coming year. And this is a study that is somewhat building upon past studies that VDOT in NOVA has done. We've done periodic regional kind of bikeway studies in 2004, and then a big update in 2015. And since then, there have been more plans and studies that have kind of looked at that regional network, including the National Capital Trail Network, not quite the same, but other products that are similar. But this study kind of builds upon those past and other things, as well as is a request from Senator Surivel and Senator Marsden to specifically look at these things, which is to identify and map locality planned bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure needs and produce planning level cost estimate ranges associated with those needs. So the key words in that are locality planned infrastructure needs. So what we mean by that is that a locality will have usually a network in their bicycle master plan or their comprehensive plan, and they give that to us for us to put into a map with all the other localities in Northern Virginia and really connect them together. But we're not creating any new needs or new segments. So we're using existing data. And we're also not prioritizing projects. Project prioritization is the role of a locality. And we won't be using all the data necessarily that we get. So some localities map out Sharo routes or signed bike routes. We probably won't be including those as an infrastructure need because that's usually just some signs and paint, but we'll probably mention it. And cost estimates will not include right-of-way and utilities. This is a big part of typical cost estimates of a project. However, since this is a high-level planning study, we do not know the right-of-way or utility needs associated with a line on a map. So we are going to be using the preliminary engineering and construction estimates, with a caveat saying, you know, this is not the full picture of the cost estimate. And this is a timeline of where we are now. So we've had 2 working group meetings thus far, and we have a draft needs map. So this is the map with the locality planned segments on it, and localities have offered review and comment on that to ensure that what's being reflected is accurately portrayed from their plan networks. We're still working with some localities and working on some, you know, data quality, but we will be moving on to the second half of the study this winter, where we do some of the cost estimate research and calculations and create a funding report. And then we'll have a working group meeting probably after the winter to go through that with the working group. And I will say Joy Fonts from FABB is representing FABB on that working group for the study. So we will have these products completed in the spring, and they will be posted online publicly for viewing in the spring or thereafter.
Heidi, if I could just add, it is a challenge for the county because as we all know, they're revising both bicycle and trails plans and coming up with the Active Fairfax transportation plan. And so they haven't finished that draft yet. So it's going to be a challenge, I think, for them to get that all together. And then with Joy's help, FABB, and we'll put the word out for others to maybe take a look at some of the early products if we, depending on how much access we have to them, to just have a third eye on what's going on.
Yes, I will say we had this kind of study in our sites for the past couple years, and I knew that Active Fairfax was happening, so I thought, oh, maybe if we, you know, delay a bit, we can capture Fairfax's new network. But the timeline associated with that is just very long. So we are capturing Fairfax's, you know, current on the books plan needs, which will be outdated soon. But that's not to say that we can't update our map in the future once Fairfax adopts the new updated network.
Any questions about the study? If not, we'll go on to the next update.
No, not seeing any questions in chat.
All right.
All right, so last slide. Bruce covered one of these points, but I know someone had mentioned to me about the Route 7 project, improvements between Reston and Tysons. That is a 7-mile corridor where there's shared use path being constructed on each side of the roadway. That will be open mid-2024 or sooner. So that will be a big connection point for our region. And then the VDOT Bike Ped Advisory Committee meeting, it's a quarterly meeting, will be occurring on October 24th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It will be held in Richmond like the previous one, or virtually. I will be attending virtually because there is a Northern Virginia Trail Summit right after that in the Merrifield area. So if you would like to attend, Howard usually attends that. So maybe coordinate with him or reach out to me. And the State Trails Office survey is live, and there is a regional public information meeting on the State Trails Office and the State Trails Plan. For the Northern region, it's November 1st at 6:30 p.m. There are 2 other meetings, one for Southern region and one for the Western region of the state, that are different dates if you can't attend the Northern region one. but I suggest maybe visiting the State Trails Office webpage, and you can get the survey and more information on registering for that public information meeting on the State Trails Plan, and a little bit of information about the State Trails Plan there in advance.
All right, yeah, that meeting is coming up soon. Regarding the VDOT Ped Bike Advisory Committee meeting, Howard is not able to attend. So if someone is able to attend and could report back to us at FABB, that would be great. All right, if there's no other questions, what I would like to do is go back and look at some of the I-66 off corridor projects west of Route 28. I know you touched on it briefly, but it seems like there's still a lot that needs to be done there.
Yes.
So go ahead.
I was just going to explain the legend on the map. The pink dashed lines are planned future, kind of like far in the future, just kind of conceptually right now. So that's what the pink is, but go ahead.
Yeah, that pink is the main one here is on the Newton Patton Drive. If you look at E.C. Lawrence Park, that little dip there, yeah, right there, that's going to be a long time, I think, because there's really nothing there and there aren't any concrete plans. So the alternative is what Heidi mentioned, going down Route 28 and then connecting with 29. But that trail along 29, it's either a concrete sidewalk with many crossings or a trail. And you can do it. We have done it because there is another county trail further down 29, but that's a little dicey. And then I assume the connection just south from 29 down to Cub Run, I think that's going to be quite a while too. Do you have any information on that? I know that's not your purview, and I did. Yeah, I think I heard from the county folks that that's just a long way off.
Mm-hmm. I have not heard anything on that. It really would be up to the county to prioritize that, I would say. Especially there's, where it's green, it's through parkland. So that would not only be an FCDOT coordination process, but an FC Parks process as well.
Yeah, so basically the trail will go to 28 and allow access to EC Lawrence and parts south, but you're kind of on your own once you get beyond that, at least for the time being. Mm-hmm. One of the major roadblocks is in the bottom panel to the far left, that Random Hills Park trail. But I'm glad you pointed out the possible detours. And I know one of the folks who, I don't know if he's still on the meeting, Dale Castello, had mentioned that he had taken a northern route. Dale, I don't want to, well, I will put you on the spot. Do you want to talk us through what that detour looked like? Seems like you went out at the exit to Fairfax Farm Road, went up to through the Penderbrook area to West Ox and beyond. Yeah, go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did, Bruce. That Fairfax Farm Road up, through Penderbrook, essentially by the golf course. Swung around, came out up by the NOVA property at Rugby Road, and then just I went. Heidi's already heard this story, so I went like 200 feet on Rugby Road to connect with the Fairfax County Parkway Trail, and then made my way back to Reston. So it's actually a fairly low stress route through there. I thought it was a nice connection, so.
Yeah, another way to do that would be you could come out to West Ox and then dip down to Route 50. And there is a trail, it's not very good, a trail along Route 50 that goes all the way up to Fairfax County Parkway. And it seems like you could then connect in. I'm trying to see where the parkway is. Anyway, there are some options there to get through. I know folks want to kind of explore the whole distance. There was a comment earlier about the opening dates, and it's been shifting from August, September, now it's October. Are you pretty hopeful that it's going to be this month, Heidi?
Yes, it will be October, and the website has been updated to reflect that. I know that isn't much consolation, but yes, it will be very soon.
All right, let's see. There's a couple of comments in the chat. Alexis, had you tracked those?
A bit, yeah. I wanted to piggyback off of Kelly's comment about the Virginia Capitol Trail, because it's kind of been on the tip of my tongue with all the maintenance questions we've had throughout this discussion. I rode the trail about a month ago. It was the second time I've done it. The trail's only been open a few years, but it seems like VDOT has taken a different approach to the maintenance of the trail, of that trail. And I know that they're a partner with a foundation that also helps with marketing and advocacy. But my understanding is that the VDOT is doing a certain level of maintenance of that trail between Williamsburg and Richmond that is above and beyond any other kind of maintenance that they do for any other sidewalk or trail that is part of their right of way. So I don't know if that's a kind of a roadmap for maybe what the future of trail maintenance looks like, or a model that we could look to for the 66 trail. But it would, even when I rode it a month ago, they were out there doing maintenance. They were out there resurfacing, just adding a layer of an asphalt layer on top of it that actually diverted us off the trail for like a couple miles and had to go back on. But I was really encouraged to see that, even a trail that's only a few years old was getting that kind of level of attention and maintenance from VDOT. And I think it would love to see that kind of attention spread.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I will say about the 66 trail in particular, this is a learning experience for all of us. This is a new kind of trail for VDOT and for the region. So it is, a learning experience on the design best practices, the maintenance best practices, all of that. So I do think that is, something we want to look into, who does what. I do suspect that the Capitol Trail, came about and, was born through probably very different processes. So it seems like it's more of a, there's a foundation for that trail and things like that, like a volunteer foundation associated with the trail. A trail along an interstate, built through an express lanes project isn't quite like that. But yes, if there are things we can implement to make it better, we will be looking for those examples.
Yeah, I mentioned that we had met with the VDOT maintenance staff, and one of the examples presented was from the VDOT webpage on the Virginia Capitol Trail. And there's a quote saying that they will treat that trail like they do all their secondary and primary roads. And that was noted by the head of maintenance at the NOVA office. And she said, I'll mention this to the folks down there. It's a great trail, and you're right. It's being well maintained by VDOT and others. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Heidi.
And I will just add that, our maintenance crews, the way it works is, we have, local crews that are dotted throughout the Northern Virginia region. Compliments to them, because they really do get pulled in so many different directions. They're tasked with maintaining, immeasurable, amounts of things. And, they usually are quite responsive when we send a request into them. It's just a matter of, and they do take it seriously, whether, regardless of whether it's a trail that needs some assistance or otherwise. So it's just a matter of just the needs are so much larger than, these few guys can cover with their weed whackers for a whole part of the region. But yeah, we're definitely keeping an eye on it.
All right, we have reached 8 o'clock. I noticed that Dale put in the chat, friends of the I-66 or the 66 parallel trail. Good idea, Dale. Something for us to think about.
I want to get in the one last maybe ask of, is there a slide or a map available where that we can see that where the trail is open?
Yeah, Heidi, I can, if you stop sharing your screen, I can share mine, and I have that table up. I think I do. I had it up here. Let me see. Let me just go to the main page. Let me go to
I'm almost there on figuring out how to unshare.
Well, I don't see that table anymore under that trails page. There was a table with status of the trails.
They may have, I think they took the table out because it's really just everything is going to open. Everything that's not already open is going to open this month, except for Random Hills.
Okay.
So they did change the map to October. Yeah, they changed.
Yeah,
that
here's
map.
the map, and you probably can't see the URL, but if you go to outside.transform66.org, and on the home page is the shared use path now open. If you click on learn more, you will go to that page that has all the information about trails, and you'll see the status map of which ones are open and which ones are planned to be open in October, and that's this map here. All right, unless there's any last minute questions or hands raised. See anything, Alexis?
Not at this time.
All right, well, thank you everybody for coming, and special thanks to Heidi. We really appreciate it. Thanks for all the good work you're doing. Congratulations again on your new position, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you all. Always fun to be with you guys.
All right, and Alexis, can you capture that chat, the text? You will.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, I can.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.